Hey, what's going on guys, Core X Designs here and welcome to another 3D Studio Max tutorial. First off, I'm really sorry for not uploading videos on my regular schedule. There have been some reasons and hopefully that won't happen in the future again. So today I'm going to be showing you how to model tire treads in 3D Studio Max. But before we start off, let me show you a sample. Okay, so in front of you, you can see this tire tread right here. And if you just go ahead and hide everything up, we can easily see that this is very cool to model and really looks really cool. And the best part about this is it's not turbo smooth, so it's pretty low poly if you like to call it low poly. So you can see that we have a pattern and it's repeating all over the place, and the tire treads actually look pretty cool. Okay, so first off, to start up the modeling process. Okay, so new here. Alright, so first off, before we start, we need to go into Google and find a good looking tire tread pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Google, and we're going to be searching for tire treads. Whoops. And we go to Google Images, and what we're looking for is a tire tread in which you can easily identify which part is actually repeating. For example, if you look at this one, you can actually see that this part right here and as well as this is repeating all over the place. So in a good tire tread pattern, you actually need something that you can identify to be repeating. For example, I guess this one is a very good and possibly the perfect tire tread for us to start with. So we can see here that easily that this part here is repeating itself all over again here and here, and then this part on this row, and this part on this row. Actually, if you look closely enough, we have a kind of like a bump here for the first one, and then a bump here for the second one. So I guess these two units are repeating themselves again and again. You need to be really careful to see which units are actually repeating. So similarly, we can I think work with this. So I'm just going to right click here and hit save image as. I'm just going to save it on my desktop as tread. Okay, so it's done. Let's go ahead and open up our 3D Studio Max folder. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is go ahead and see where we saved the tire tread pattern. We're going to right click, hit properties, and go into details, and here we can actually see what are the dimensions of this image. So it's 450 by 335. So remember that and go into 3D Studio Max, grab a plane on the top viewport. Let's go ahead and randomly create a plane. Okay, make sure you center this plane up at 0, 0, 0. That's not important, but yeah, I like to do it. Also, we're going to drop down the length segments to 1 by 1, and the way I do this is just by right-clicking these arrows and just turn to the minimum value that it can hold. Okay, now for the important part. What we need to do is take the tread properties and okay, so the dimensions are 450 by 335. So I'm just going to input in 450 and 335 here. Now you saw that I input the values in the opposite way I read them. So it should be 450 here and 335 here. But actually 3D Studio Max and Windows, they work in opposite ways. And the length in 3D Studio Max becomes the width in Windows and vice versa. So that's just something you discover while you're working with 3D Studio Max a lot, and it's really not that difficult. So I'm just gonna hit M real quick to bring up my material editor, and on a new slot, I'm just gonna create a standard material or a V-Ray material, whichever render you plan to use. However, it won't matter for the blueprint here, but I'm just gonna stick with a V-Ray material as only because I like to keep things pretty uniform. So I'm just going to click on this box next to diffuse, and I'll choose bitmap. And really quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and browse to where I actually saved that. Actually moved it to C. We have our tread pattern. Just hit open here, and okay. So what you do is click on this button that says show shaded material in viewport, and then this button that says go to parent. Alright, so now we need to drag this material onto our plane that we just created. And I'm just going to change the color of the plane to black. That doesn't really matter, but helps a lot. So one last thing that you need to do is if you go ahead and observe really closely, you can see that we start to really get some jagged edges at the ends here. And we can't really work with too much jagged edges. However, we can work in this situation, but in most situations you won't be able to. So a way to fix that is by going into material and show materials in viewport as, and click realistic materials with maps. Now if you're using 3D Studio Max 2011 or earlier, this option is going to be hardware display with maps, and I'm using 3D Studio Max 2012, and that's why it's showing up that option. Now if your materials kind of vanish out of there, all you need to do is just click on them once and they will reappear. And now if you go ahead and zoom in real close, you can see that the edges still get jagged, but they're a lot less. Okay, so enough talking on my part. Let's go ahead and start some modeling. Before we do that, actually, we need to right click this, go to object properties, and we need to go into general, and just go ahead and uncheck the box called show frozen in gray, and then click on the box that says freeze, and then hit OK. So that way we cannot actually move it even if you wanted to. That's just a good way to set up blueprints. Okay, so going into my top viewport, I'm just going to really quickly create, let's say, a plane. Let's start with this part right here. This one seems the most simple. I'm going to create right here, right click. I'm just going to move it up. Okay, and I'm also going to make it see-through. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and convert this into an editable poly. Go to vertex mode, and all we need to do really is, line up the vertices to actually get the shape of the thread. So I'm going to really quickly do this. It's not really difficult, of course. If you've used 3D Studio Max before, this is the easiest part. Now we'll just go ahead and go into edge, and holding down shift, I'm just going to drag it out, and that's going to create like a duplicate edge of sorts. And all we need to do really is line up the edges. Okay, and just going to really quickly do this. Alright, so you need to basically, go ahead and do this for the entire tire. Just make sure you don't do this for this part. We just do it for this half part here, and then we can use symmetry to actually get the other half. So yeah, I'm going to be speeding up the video, and you can watch while I model this thing up. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished modeling all this stuff up, and for the sake of simplicity in this tutorial, I didn't actually take two of these and make it. So I can just do with one. It won't actually be visible in the tire. So what we need to do basically now is take this and hit the align tool right here. See this? And click on this this green here. Make sure you untick X and Y position. Take only Z and hit OK. And we need to do this for actually all of these up, so that they're all planar, and that's what we really want, because tires are planar. So I'm just gonna really quickly do this, and I think they're all planar now. So now what we can do is take this and hit attach, and just go ahead and attach all of the pieces together. There we go. Okay, so now what we can do is apply symmetry to this, and just take this, symmetry mirror. Let's move it all the way to the center. Make sure you hit flip here, and well seam. Just go ahead and move it somewhere here. You can see that this vertex is too back. So I'm just gonna take this vertex and just move it over, and it's gonna weld itself automatically. Okay, this one is not welding. Okay, now it does. Okay, so as you can see, we have a cool looking tire pattern here, and we're ready to duplicate it. So what I'll do first thing is I'll take this, hit edge, actually border, and I'll hit Control 8, select all borders, and holding down shift, I'm just gonna move all these down here, something like this, so that they're kind of like 3D. Alright, so now that we have the entire tire modeled up, we need to find a way to actually close these gaps up. So we can see here that we have these gaps here, and if you start to duplicate this basic piece again and again, that gap is going to show up again and again, and that's not going to look cool. So what we can do to get away with it is, there are two ways to actually do this. One is extremely simple, and the other one is extremely difficult. And it actually depends on what you're working with. I personally prefer the extremely simple method, of course, but it may be different for you guys, and I have no idea why. So maybe if you're working on something really professional, you might want to use that method. So anyways, I'm just going to tell you the extremely difficult method first. So what we need to do basically is, find a way to bridge all these gaps together. So since all this is one part now, you can actually take these two edges, and actually bridge them together. And then we can bridge these two edges together, and you might need a lot more edge loop segments and all that stuff to actually completely cover this up. However, the way I do this is, I just go ahead and make this into a tire, and then I use a tube to actually make it look like it is all covered up. So that actually works better for me, but might not be the same for you. So if you go ahead and go to, let's say, our side view, and we go to the edge mode, and take the end edges here, take these and actually loop them together. Okay, so we want only the end edges, so let's go ahead and deselect the ones that we don't want. Okay, so these are the edges that we want, and what we need to do basically here is hold down shift and drag those outwards, so we have something like this. Now we need to do this again and again so that we form somewhat like a semicircular shape. And the reason we're doing this is because if you look at real tires, they're not flat from the sides. They actually have some bulge, and that's what we're trying to replicate. So this one should be enough, and if you go ahead and take the symmetry, it's going to be applied on the other side as well. What we need to do is just go ahead and take all of this back somewhere here, and then holding down shift, just going to drag it out. Well, wait, just a minute. I think. Okay, so I just went and put it in the wrong place. So what I'll do is I'll take, let's say we take our element, this element, the element, and duplicate it, something like this, I guess. Clone to element, hit OK, and that way we're gonna have some easier to loop around. So I'm gonna hold on shift and click and drag it outwards, something like this. Alright, so we're just gonna make one copy right now. You can see that we have this weird looking overlapping. Yep. So we need to fix that up, and the way we do this basically is by simply moving this up, and there is no way. So what we can do is actually take these vertices and actually tweak them. So we could just go ahead and move this over here, take this, move it up here, and you need to make it fit. Okay, so we're just gonna move this up here, I guess. Delete this, and let's try and do it again. See if it still overlaps, and it kind of does. Make sure you do it in reference this time, and now you can actually see what difference you're making here. So if we go to vertex here, we go ahead and take this up. You can actually see that the changes are being reflected over there. So I guess I could take this one up and this one kind of down here, and it actually looks pretty good now. So I'm just going to take the reference and delete that, and take this, and holding down shift, grab a copy and move it somewhere up here. Now you want to make at least 50 copies. You could do with 100 copies, but 50 looks pretty good to me. Hit OK, and you're going to see that we have kind of like a road thing here, and yeah. So we're just going to take one of this. Okay, so my fault, we did something that was not supposed to be done. We created all of them to be references of each other, which we don't want. We want them all to be copies of each other. So we just go ahead and hit 50 here, hit OK. Okay, so now what we need to do is go ahead and somewhat attach this all together. So that's very easy to do. Hit Control A and then go group, and just group them into shreds. Alright, so now if you go ahead and click on this group, we now add a modifier called bend. So it's right here, bend, and what you're going to do is increase the angle of this to something like this. Also, now you want to go ahead and experiment just a bit with the axis, and just kind of find the right axis to make this look spherical. Now it happens most of the time you cannot actually find the right axis, but if you change the direction to -90 degrees and the bend axis to Y, you can get what we're looking for. Now this is just something I discovered while working.
You might not be able to do this in the first try, but you have these settings right in front of you. You can actually copy that up. So for the angle, I use 363.5 and not 360 degrees. And the reason I do this is because if I use 360 degrees, it doesn't close up. And for this case also, it doesn't close up quite well. This one I increase the angle so that it doesn't look where it starts and where it ends. So right here we can see where it starts and where it ends. Okay, so that is looking pretty cool. What we need to do finally is go ahead and close the gaps. So the way we do this is very simple. Just go over to our left viewport, and I'm just going to go ahead and create a tube from the center, and just go ahead and move it out somewhere over here, and then move it in somewhere over here. Oh, let's do that again. So somewhere here, and give it some depth. And we're going to be aligning this tube to our group here. Hit OK. So the center of the tube is actually on the center of the tire rim. So we're going to take this tube and increase the height so that it actually fits perfectly. So also decrease the height segments to 1. We don't really need those many segments. Okay, so we're just going to affect pivot only, center to object. Go rate height, increase the height, and this is just a place we need to play with it, and get kind of the right way to get it. Now it of course doesn't look really smooth, but we're gonna be adding turbo smooth to this this tube, so you don't really need to worry about that. Okay, so as you can see, the parts look absolutely closed now, as you can see right there. And instead of applying turbo smooth here, actually you could just go ahead and increase the sides to something like 32 maybe. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. Now you won't actually use just a tire in this case. In a case such as this, you will of course have a rim, so you will actually compensate for this tube right here. It looks really what do we call it, smooth, and it won't actually affect your model because you will be using a rim, as I told you. Wait a sec, let me open that project up again. Okay, so I think it was this. Okay, so as you can see here, I have used exactly the same technique, but this rim here actually hides the cylinder here, and it actually looks like we actually modeled the entire thing up. In this way, actually, I used the difficult way that I told you, the way of bridging the edges together. But if you go ahead and follow my instructions closely, you will get exactly the same result. So yeah, this is going to be pretty much it for tire modeling. I'm just going to really quickly open up the tire model that we just created. Okay, go to here. Okay, so this is going to be pretty much it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button down below. Also favorite the video and share it with your friends if you really like it. Also be sure to subscribe to my channel for upcoming video tutorials and speed models, whatever you want. Yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and yeah, have a nice day.